Returning to our protagonist's group, they were attacked by giants. And while they were fighting them, the mage, who had remained motionless, suddenly captured Mai. She told the girl that she had been secretly searching for her, despite Rien's orders forbidding her to do so. It turned out that Mai had previously lived with the Tensen, but had been expelled and then fled Yorai. The mage revealed to everyone that the girl was of the same nature as the Tensen. She fed on humans. Despite this, Gabimaru couldn't help but protect her when Mai begged for her life. This angered the mage, so he used his clone, whatever it was, a version that manipulated butterflies. Camille wasn't about to miss this opportunity to exact revenge on her hand, so she was the most agitated. However, the mage had manipulated Tao perfectly, so our group didn't harm them. The mage asked them why they were protecting a girl who had no ties to them. Gabimaru replied that perhaps he had abandoned her to her fate in the past, but since arriving on the island, he had changed, and now, if the person who helped him fell into trouble, he would help. The mage wasn't bothered by their words, and since he was confident he could defeat them, when Gabimaru asked him about Tao, the mage responded to his doubts with kindness. He told them that Tao resides within all creation, and there are 5 types of training to enhance it: physical exercise, breathing exercises, meditation, energy cultivation, and intimate arts. You see, in the latter case, mages like him needed someone else to train with, because unlike Tensen, who possess both yin and yang energies, they possess only yang. To complement his training, he needed Mai, because although she was of the same nature as Tensen, she possessed only yin energy. This was the reason she was expelled from the castle, and Rien condemned her to die alone, or live in Yorai as a training partner for mages. Our protagonist had no intention of allowing him to take Mai, so in a last-ditch effort, Gabimaru and Tamila confronted the mage. But he metamorphosed to become stronger. There was no chance of victory now, or so everyone thought, because at that very moment, Pucci told them he had successfully interpreted Mai's words. Therefore, he commanded her to achieve a peaceful state of mind to connect with Tao. Now that the perfect time had arrived for him to sense it, Gabimaru needed only this instruction to understand what to do. Despite his version of Tao requiring more training, our protagonist was able to confront both mages simultaneously. During the fight, Gabimaru realized that now that he had accepted his own weakness, he could sense the weaknesses of others for the first time. His strength was such that he could now rival Tensen's. Before ending his life, Gabimaru asked how many others like him he would encounter. The mage already knew he would die, so he agreed to answer. He explained that the Tensen had ordered 3 Taoist mages to keep an eye on the humans. On the other hand, Segiri's group finally reached the gates of Yorai, but as soon as they entered, Haku's head was cut off. Seeing the culprit, Yosuri attempted to flee but was stopped by a man. Although she was afraid, Sagiris drew his weapon to protect the girl, and when asked about her identity, Haku answered. He told them that he was the Tensen Mudan mage. Seeing Senta surprised that Haku was still alive, Mudan explained that beings like Haku do not die so easily. However, his transformation into a tree would now accelerate. Haku accepted his fate. He only hoped that after death his spirit would be summoned to Yorai. Mudan dashed his hopes and revealed that everything they had been taught in the village had been a lie. A lie the teacher had told to maintain order. The reality is that the island is a laboratory where life is being studied. Haku and everyone else were prototypes born from experiments, and the lab rats were the humans who arrived on the island. Mudan told them that humans' primary function is to produce tang. Furthermore, the island lacked anything like the elixir they sought. While tang was indispensable to the Tensen, it transformed humans into plants. Yosuria used the time while Mudan spoke to free herself and cut him into pieces. The group attempted to escape, But before they could, Mudan reassembled his body and attacked Yusuria. He realized that the girl had used a small amount of Tao in her attacks, so he planned to capture her and cultivate her to perfect her into Tang. When Senta saw that Yusuria was his target, he drew his sword to protect her. Combining their attacks, they tried to stop Mudan. Shek realized this was ineffective, so he asked Haku if there was a way to defeat Mudan. The tree told him the only way was to destroy his tandem. If they cut it, the flow of Tao flowing into his body would stop, and he would be unable to regenerate. But even if they managed to break the tandem, their attacks would need to contain Tao to harm Mudan. Fortunately, Sagire had the ability to temporarily increase his Tao, and his attacks were the only ones that caused damage. The three hatched a plan to defeat Mudan. Senta and Usuriya would protect Sagiri, who would attempt to cut the tandem. After much effort, Mudan's own confidence overwhelmed him, and the group managed to defeat him. While resting, Senta told Sagiri he could trust Usuriya. And when she asked if he felt anything for her, he said he was only envious of how free she was, which was the complete opposite of him. Senta explains that as a child, he dreamed of becoming an artist, but his family's rules forced him to become an Asahemeon. Although he hated killing people, he could only close his heart and conform to others' expectations. That's why he admires Yusuria. Suddenly, the group noticed flowers growing nearby. They let their guard down. Yusuria was nearly impaled, but Senta used his body to shield her, and flowers began to grow on him. It turned out that at some point, Mudan had activated demonic resurrection. Tip told them he would finish them off, but just as he was about to fulfill his promise, Shion appeared to save them, ready to rush into battle. We find ourselves at the Hashi Inn, where shogunate officers are meeting with those called Jika and Shugen. One of the officers tells Chika that he is the only one to return from the island alive, and therefore asks him to explain in detail what happened. Jika responds to this suggestion with a relaxed, smiling expression, even expressing the opinion that he doesn't think telling them about it would be very helpful, and asks if he'd rather sit down. But since they don't listen, he begins his summary from the beginning. To obtain the elixir of life, the shogun sent convicted criminals and members of a clan called the Shogun to the island. He was the superior of Yurbo, one of the Reizo assassins, but Choyasa killed him on the spot. Therefore, shaking with rage at being unable to fulfill his mission, he turned around, only to be carried back to the island by the tide. This takes the officer by surprise, so he asks him point-blank if he's landed on the island, which Jika confirms. The officer is confused, as 60 people have disappeared from that island. Continuing his report, Jika says he considered continuing his work, but decided he needed to report the criminal's death to his family, so he decided to return. The shogun demands a more detailed explanation, but Jika deems it futile and suggests they forget about the island as it doesn't belong to this world, to make his warning even more compelling. Saiten cites the saying that only fools and children beat their pillows, clearly offended by this comment. An officer asks him if he's implying that the shogunate is full of incompetence. Jika tries to deny the accusation, but stops when Shugen interrupts to apologize himself, letting the officers know that even Kamada has a problem with him. He bows, assuring them that responsibility lies with him and the Kamada clan, and even begs for forgiveness for this offense. One of the officers scoffs, believing this is enough to forgive them for this offense, but another reminds him that Yamada was the one who committed this incident. Upon learning this, the officer calms down and excuses the situation by saying that Yik must be tired from the journey, agreeing to forgive his disrespect without further argument. Having finished this, they proceed to read the shogun's orders, asking everyone to listen carefully. The instructions state that the Kamada clan will again travel to the palace world to oversee those who have already disembarked. Therefore, suitable people must be selected for this mission, and this order is addressed to Shugen. Soon after, the two emerge from the area, where Jika mentions that it seems the samurai are mere pawns. This is because of the way the shogun treats them, considering them worthless. Upset, Shogun points out that he previously overreacted with the shogunate officers. Despite his attempt to rebuke him, Jika tells him that he knew everything would go well if he was there. Shogun makes it clear that even he can't ignore his misdeed, and would like him to adhere to his samurai manners from now on. His tone suggests he's serious, so Jika ultimately simply apologizes and leaves the matter at that. Afterward, Shugen reminds him that he's currently Aizen's deputy, and therefore can't bring him any shame. Focusing on the important matter, Jik asks him if there are any convicted criminals left who could be useful. To which Shugen replies that it appears they'll be sending ninja from Iwagakure from now on. He knows that during the selection process for new criminals to be sent to the island, ninja from Iwagakure killed all the candidates, and then the shogun chose 4 ninja from the remaining ninja. Furthermore, the leader of Guagakure himself said he was happy to cooperate with the shogun, as something had been left behind on that island as well. Shugen believes it's absurd to leave this mission to the criminals in the first place and informs Jika that reinforcements will join and they'll head to the island in a few days. Jika freezes for a moment upon hearing this, complaining that he doesn't want to return to this place, shedding a tear and changing his demeanor. Shugen reminds him that Aen was supposed to submit his report on the 2nd day, but 3 days have passed since then. And not only Aen, but he too is interested in whether Tensa, Kisho, Sagiri and the others are alive, which worries him so much he can't stay silent. And with tears streaming down his face, he says that because of this, they will head to the island and carry out the mission immediately. At that moment, the young man asks them, what should they do with this? Referring to what Jika brought back upon his return. It comes close to explaining everything well, and he thought that if they saw it, they would understand that it was a dangerous island, but he didn't even have the opportunity to show it.